right, welcome to Artcasters 413.
This one goes out to the Artcasters. Ooh, Artcasters! I say you're catching your spell, Artcasters. Catching your spell. Ooh, you're gonna guess that spell. Strike the hell. Whoa! Ooh, hi, 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 hi. Hi, hi.
Right. All right. Jim, I have no idea how you convinced Axel to do vocals on that track. I don't know how you obtained that for us.
Well, when he found out Corey used to be one of the original members of Faster Pussycat, he's like, well, I've got to. So.
I love it. We got some pull with the rock stars.
Hard to deny the Pussycats.
Yeah, that's true. All right. So we have a fun show ahead of us. We have a returning guest, which I'm really excited about. And we're going to go around and make our introductions. So, and then I'm going to play a special song for Jim Lujan after we do our introductions. Just, worked for about a year on this thing just to prep it for a special moment with Jim. But anyhow, so if you're on my channel, if you haven't yet, hit subscribe, hit the bell so you get notifications when you're about to go live, and make sure you pick up Jacob's Apartment and Two Stories. Jacob's Apartment's weird right now on Amazon because it keeps saying there's only one left, and then the one left will get ordered, and then it'll say there's only one left. So I don't know if that's like a scam.
No. Are you saying that Amazon is being dishonest with the public because they are upstanding citizens?
Yes.
Josh, it's actually a political statement.
Yeah, that's true. One. You guys, I'm getting shadow banned. Don't let the man shadow ban me on Amazon.
Left, and there's only one right.
That's right. That's correct. I love it so much. Okay. And then Scott, where can everybody check out your stuff, especially if they're into nostalgia?
Oh man, I should have taken analogy pill. Okay,
dude, I just did, and I'm like this close to joining you on that sneeze.
Yeah, if you see me gone, it's because I went to go take an allergy pill. All right, so you can find my stuff at circworks.com, where actually I put a few more wax packs that I haven't even really revealed up there, but there's some new wax packs up there if you want to check those out, as well as digital products for making comics and my own comic book, Young and the Dead. Here's one with the cover by Corey. Here's one with the cover by Josh. 2 variant covers. I kind of took a little break this week. I haven't worked on it, but I'm actually working on the comic right now. So the final issue will be coming sometime this year.
Ooh, exciting.
And other than that, check out my YouTube channel where I reverse engineer old nostalgia, put my own spin on it, show you how to create cool stuff, and I'll have for my patrons, actually, there's a new video up right now, or you can wait till next week and see it on my YouTube channel. So it's going to be a cool one.
I love it. Yeah. And then Dylan Magwoy of Thalasso basically asked if Corey got a haircut. Corey, did you get a haircut?
Yes. I've been cutting my own hair since 2020, and I tried to cut the top. Yeah. This is a more accurate. We'll make that. There we go. That's more accurate.
Nice. That's Corey's self-portrait on the back.
I love it.
I cut the top with scissors. I usually just use clippers, and I did a really good job on the top, and then I totally screwed up the side, and so I just had to shave my head again. So anyway, this is my in between semesters mohawk. It'll just become a buzz cut in a few days once the semester starts again. But
nice. I dig it.
Yeah.
Corey, where can everybody read or hear your novel in progress?
Yeah, so you can go to CoreyKerr.com to see all the artwork and everything. And if you want to get a hold of the chapters that I've released, you can go to CoreyKerr.com/email, which will take you to my Substack. And that is where I am releasing chapters as I write them. I've got a couple in the can that I haven't recorded yet.
Don't record in the can.
I like the vintage sound. I get the beans that have like the loose label and it reverberates. Anyway, sounds like an old radio.
That's actually how
Um,
we record audio tracks for Jim. Is like we just have a tin can with like a string of yarn that's an interstate string of yarn.
like a 1,200-mile long string of twine.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's why it sounds so good. Yeah. So anyway, you can go to there. I've got a chapter coming up that is going to show what happens when everyone in the entire world gets their memories reset to day one. Not in the cute rom-com way where everybody still remembers how to walk and talk and poop and wipe themselves, but in the horrific way where literally everybody becomes an infant, but they all have adult bodies. So you should stay tuned for that one because that one's going to be fun.
I love it. All right. And our special guest tonight, a returning guest. I would guess that if not the most frequent guest on Artcasters, close up there. I think probably the most frequent though.
Might
So-
be either him or maybe Dr. Hodges. Usually when
Yeah.
they're on together. Although at one point it was Gaz, but Gaz hasn't been on in a while. So
Yeah.
since since he had a kid, he hasn't been on as much. So
Yeah.
so
Yeah, Dr. Hodges and I cancel each other out when we're on the show,
Yeah. It's
and
true.
in real life, too.
I love it. You guys are like the yin and yang, the Superman and Bizarro Superman of the Artcasters.
I like it.
And you guys can argue about who's Bizarro and who's not. I know everybody wants to be Bizarro because he's awesome. Okay, so Jim, where can everybody find your stuff and check out if they're kind of interested in maybe like some deep 70s love making soul or some good, red-blooded American music? Where can they check out?
Well, you can
your
find
channel?
all of that at my website, jimlujan.com. As
Love it.
well, it redirects you to my YouTube page, Jim Lujan, which, funnily enough, I think my YouTube page URL is Jim Lujan 333. I don't ever remember doing that, but I like it. So, and also,
Is that because of the 332 Jim Luhans that came before you?
yes, yes, because 333 is 9, and 9 divided by 3 is, what is it, Corey? 3. Okay, good. I just want to make sure. So, you can watch my cartoons at jimlujan.com. You can find everything there, so just go there.
Awesome.
And follow my band, Faster Pussycat. This summer we'll be touring with Onyx. It's kind of odd. So.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, so before we get into the topic, Jim, I know how much you like John Mellencamp, and so I have a song for you.
All right.
It's,
You mean Cougar, Johnny Cougar?
Yeah, Johnny Cougar.
Okay.
So yeah, you might have heard of it. It's Jack and Diane. Are you ready? Here it is.
Okay, I'm ready.
A little ditty about Jack and Diane sucking on chili dogs outside the Tasty Freeze. Sucking on chili dogs outside the Tasty Freeze. Sucking on chili dogs outside the Tasty Freeze.
That was it.
I think with the crowd for that. Is that the Sucking on Chili Dogs remix?
Yes.
Okay. It's kind of gross, but I liked it. But,
Yeah. Anyhow, I thought of
I
that like
prefer
5 minutes
chewing
before we
them.
went live, and I'm like, Jim would laugh at that. So, because that is the weirdest lyric ever written.
I said it when it came out. I said it, and I stand by that statement years ago.
At some point, I would like to record a version of that that's just that for the whole song. It's just saying "sucking on," like it looped. Anyhow,
have you guys heard it was Jimmy Fallon doing I'm now blanking on the name. Tom Petty, where he says she loves horses, but he kept saying she kept going back to that thing about her loving horses, and the whole song ends up being about loving horses, and he's singing "Free Falling." You got to Google
I love
that
it.
one. That's pretty good.
Okay, we'll
That's what
check
that
it out.
reminds me of.
Oh man,
So, check off Sucking on Chili Dogs if you're playing Artcasters Bingo.
That's true. That's true. You guys can take a shot now. So Jim, we're going to talk about the full Fungus, not John Cougar Mellencamp today.
Yes.
and there's a lot of progress on your new full-length movie. And so I thought it would be cool if we get into a conversation about a couple things. Like, you guys who are watching should stay tuned because there's going to be some reveals. We might even play the trailer before Jim starts talking about it, so you guys can get a preview of the trailer if you have not seen it yet. And I'd encourage you also, after this Artcasters, to go to Jim's channel and check out the preview yourself.
Then we're
going to be revealing. Yeah, go ahead.
Let me build it up so that they
I
can
love
be
it.
let down even harder. Okay. No. Well, thank you, Josh. By the way, the title of this episode is The Almost Full Fungus, because I'm almost finished with it. For those of you that don't know, I'm working on a feature-length animated film. It's really the second one I've done feature-length, because I did one called Counterclockwise in Foreverland with Counterclockwise and Deacon Burns. And that was 10 years ago this year. We just realized the 10th anniversary of that film. And that played at a couple theaters. So that's really cool. But this is the second one that I've done, like set out to do a feature. It's going to be at least, I used to say 70 minutes. Now I'm saying 90 minutes.
Wow.
If you have me on next month, it'll be 200 minutes. So I don't know. But it's coming along really good. I will tell you this. It is almost finished. If this was Star Wars, if this film was Star Wars, I'm exactly at the point of the film where Luke and Leia are on the ledge and the ledge is retracting. That's where I'm at.
So you're doing it in order then? Are you doing
Sort of, but there's a couple of scenes. So this film has a lot of flashbacks in it, but they're not really flashbacks that are set up like, well, that reminds me of the time. You know, it's not like they're just random. They kind of pop up, but they help tell the story. And I've done a lot of those. So those are out of time. Some of those appear towards the end. And there's a rumor. I don't know if it's true, but there's a rumor that all of these Artcasters on the show today have voice appearances in this film, which kind of makes this really greasy and seedy that you had me on the show today.
It's true.
Almost payola.
Yeah.
It is payola.
Basically, we're all getting points, so we want this to succeed.
Cryptocurrency.
Mm-hmm. Crypto. Yeah. It's Doge, but not Doge. It's
I call it the fungi coin, and you guys can probably purchase it later this evening.
Exactly. Oh. It's the sales pitch for it is like, don't you want to buy from a fun guy? He's a fun guy.
Right. And Corey died, and that's when Corey died.
Corey just logs off. He's like, and that's when Corey quits Artcasters.
He went to spirit. Look, he's following the light.
Oh no. The camera starts rising.
That's the whole deal. I'm this film, when I started out doing it, I just want to say real quick that I told myself, okay, I'm just going to have a limited cast, maybe 4 other people in the film. I do have 4 other people in the film, but I have an additional 30.
Yeah.
Is this the biggest cast you've had in a movie?
Yeah, for sure. For sure it is. But it's also the longest movie I've done.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. So in May, it'll be 1 year since I started it.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah. So
doesn't seem like that long.
This time last year, I was probably gathering stuff for the film. And then I actually started it in May, started drawing it and, recording.
Wow. But, so we're at the 1 year of inception kind of.
Yeah.
That's going to be really good because that'll relate to our topic where I really want to get into inspiration, motivation, and determination on a big project like that. But before we kind of get into that, let's all check out the Full Fungus trailer. We'll play this a couple times. But here it is, ladies and gentlemen. Are you not entertained? The Full Fungus trailer.
My name is Chino Diamond. I'm a private eye. My father used to say there are 2 types of people in the world. Greedy and stupid. Well, there's a third. Greedy and stupid. And dangerous.
You know what? To be fair to that, I didn't realize I went to the wrong screen. So let me back that up. Let's watch this again.
Who hired this guy?
I just wanted to watch Josh.
I thought you were doing the worst reaction video ever.
My name is Chino Diamond. I'm a private eye. My father used to say there are two types of people in the world: greedy and stupid. Well, there's a third: greedy and stupid. And dangerous. Shut up. It's a missing piece of music I think might be right up your alley. What do you know about the full fungus?
Well, let me stop you right there. It's a myth. Doesn't exist. If it did, somebody would have found it by now.
You think you're the first private eye to come looking for the full fungus tapes?
Wilt's been missing for almost a month now. It's not like him.
All right, enough games. You want the truth? Here we go.
Larry Carlisle, you know, the game show host? He's hired me to find his missing son-in-law.
Larry Carlisle.
That guy's a douche.
Say, would you look at that?
Every answer leads to a new question. Every question leads to a lie. My name is Chino Diamond. I'm a private eye.
Oh, we're doing that? We're doing that now? That's what we're doing?
That's what we're doing.
Yeah, that's pretty exciting. And that last line is Dr. Hodges himself,
Yeah,
correct?
it's Dr.
Yes.
Hodges doing that. Thank you, Edie. A little bit of kismet on this trailer. There's a line at the end where the lead character, Chino Diamond, the detective, says, every
Lie leads to a question.
and every question, no, every something clue leads to a question. Every
There it is.
question leads to a lie. My name is Chino Diamond. I'm a private eye. And those are two separate lines recorded months apart. And I just happened to pull them, put them together, and I went, oh my God, I spit a dope rhyme right there. Charlie Rossman plays Chino Diamond. He's like my Will Ferrell. He's like my sunshine. He's my he's been great. He was in Infinity Pool. He's been in a lot of things that I've done, but he plays Chino Diamond. Deacon Burns from Counterclockwise plays a character named Mink Fungus. So for those of you that don't know, I'll tell you the plot really quick. It's just about a missing piece of music called the Full Fungus. And some people don't think it exists, but these mobsters find out that it does exist, and they want to get their hands on it. So they're looking for the estranged son of this guy, Mink Fungus. And the detective, Chino Diamond, kind of gets roped in. And I bite from every film that I've ever loved. So there's lots of influences on it. But and then Gary comes in and says, "Is that what we're doing?" And he looks at the camera like that.
Yeah. And it pauses, and then you see Gary's name on
He's like the
credit.
Kramer of this film.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued, and I think that one of the fun things about the way that you cut this trailer is the audio, just the level of production on the music and just in the intro is so smooth and slick, but like provides such an atmosphere that's like it instantly kind of pulls you in and makes you want to know more. You know.
Thank you.
So yeah.
Yeah, the music's going to be huge in this film, meaning it's going to carry a lot of the film. And I have a bunch of music recorded, but I've determined that the whole month of May, I'm going to devote to really working on the soundtrack a lot.
I love that.
And then what that means is I have to go back and do another sort of edit of it, or you know. By the way, Corey, you'll be proud of me, more proud of me than you are now. I'm using
in a
Final Cut
consistent
Pro.
state of pride for you.
Yeah, I'm using Final Cut Pro now rather than iMovie. So I started this film using iMovie, and in the middle of the film, I decided, because when you're working on a major feature length film, it's good to stop in the middle and change your animation method. That always works well. So I went from, what Flash did I have? Like Flash 1926 or something.
Yeah,
I went from that old school Flash to the current, subscription model Flash. Well, not Flash.
It's not even called Flash.
It's not even called Flash. It's called
Adobe Animate CC.
Adobe Animate, yeah. So I did in the middle of production, I went to that. That was okay. That wasn't that big of a transition. But then I also said, well, that's not enough, Jim. I said, what else can I do to throw a wrench? So I went I used iMovie all these years, which is great. I got nothing against iMovie, but then I upgraded to Final Cut Pro in the middle of it. So
how was the upgrade?
Fantastic. I'm so happy with Final Cut Pro. I'm really happy with it. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to have my arms surgically removed and switched.
Just so you have to like relearn.
Yeah.
23 years ago when I was using iMovie, I taught myself how to switch over to Final Cut X at the time. And it was a big switch. It was a big deal. There's some minor improvements from the software that just comes with your 14-year-old iMac and software that you pay for.
Hey, you know what? To give Jim credit on this, though, iMovie is incredibly easy, incredibly efficient, and can fool people pretty easily. Like I've definitely done stuff on iMovie before in a pinch, and like people had no idea.
That's exactly how people describe me too, by the way.
Yeah, I started off in like Windows Movie Maker, and I switched over to something
even worse.
Yeah, but I switched over, but because it was easy to figure out.
Yeah.
And then I needed something a little more power and a little more versatility, so I switched over to another really user-friendly program called Power Director.
Yeah.
And I could do some cool stuff with that, but then once I kind of made this change to the videos I'm doing now, I knew I needed to take it up, so I kind of taught myself Premiere, and yeah, it there's a little learning curve, but if you're used to Adobe stuff, I can do way. But yeah.
I want to say to all the little kids watching this show right now, because I know there's
all the children,
all the children's.
Wu-Tang is for the children.
It doesn't matter what you start with, like what don't put off making a project because you don't have tools, because sometimes the tools can even be a hindrance. They can be too many choices, and then you start.
For example, Jim cannot afford a pen, and so what he does to draw all of his pictures is he uses the entrails of rodents that he finds in his backyard.
And I use my own tears to wet.
Exactly.
So, but yeah,
everybody uses tears. That's like a pro tool, right there.
Well, that's why the children's tears are the most
the children's
valuable.
Yeah. It's all that adrenochrome. It really helps.
I know a place, by the way, we should go to at some point, but let's just
yeah, another topic. But yeah, like I think that's fascinating in its own, because it's, what is it about the creative process? Maybe we can open this up too, because I know we've all been deep in projects where you have to like just learn something entirely new. And the thing you were joking about with like switching arms or whatever, it's not that far from like a lot of the creative process, where I've definitely been knee deep in a project where I have to learn something entirely new or relearn something. And it does kind of feel like you just switched hands. Like, okay, now I got to draw left-handed. It's like,
by the way, which is one motorcycle accident away from Corey actually having his arm switched.
Yeah. And then there's cases where Corey literally has to relearn how to navigate human life.
7 years ago today, Facebook reminds me, I drove 933 miles from buying that motorcycle that about killed me. Yeah.
Not to get too sidetracked, but do you remember the date of the big accident, the last one?
I think it was in September. Not off the top of my head, the specific date though.
Okay, we should do something that day.
T.S. Eliot measures his days in coffee spoons, right? And Corey measures them in motorcycle accidents.
Broken bones.
And I'm sorry, I don't even remember your question because I derailed.
So I was gonna get to the idea of these self-directed projects, like creator-owned projects, where you're conceiving this thing, and it's a vision that, you know, frankly, like non-creatives in your life might think you're nuts. Like for instance, I imagine like a non-creative, if Jim went up to them and was like, "Hey, I'm going to make this movie called Full Fungus," and you started describing it, they might be like, "What the like? What are you talking about?" Because it's kind of a wild idea, and it's so complex. Like it starts real simple, but there's so many like characters and things to juggle within the plot, and I guess and then there's a massive hurdle that you have to overcome from that like initial, okay, let's go. I've got this idea. It's kind of crazy, but I'm going to make it work. To like where you're at now, where it's like almost Full Fungus, right? And that process of getting there is full of like a lot of like relearning or struggles or like time, constraints, and like I think in the case of your process in animation, there's a lot of play involved too, where it's like you probably create I mean, I think a lot of filmmakers have this where you'll make a lot of stuff that you fall in love with, but it just has to go on the editing room floor. Right. And, throughout this entire process, like, I guess what I'm trying to say is like, what is it about the creative process that forces us to be okay with being like, okay, I've got this right-handed, now I'm going to draw it left-handed. like that, the struggle of like learning new tools, of like overcoming, just time constraints and making something that, like, to me, like a year ago, when you're thinking about Full Fungus, it's so far off. What's the insanity that we have that makes us go from that to like conception of the thing,
I think it's the same gene that a professional athlete has when they've been with a team for a long time and they just have the routine, and they go to a new team, the same thing that drives them, which is, I'm talking about millions of dollars.
Yeah. And sponsorships
beyond that, it's the kind of challenging yourself for your own entertainment sake, because it's a survival mode. It's sink or swim. You know that if you try something and it has to work, because failure means public, humiliation, which sometimes success means that too.
Yeah.
But it's challenging yourself and taking out the safety net kind of, when that safety net's gone, you have to perform. You have to do your best, because if you half-ass it, you're gonna, you'll die. So it's death. I think death drives us all. But yeah, for me, every film, every cartoon I've done, there's something new that, whether or not it shows up on the screen, it's new to me. So I feel like I've progressed each project I've done. This one, just from the sheer scale of it, I feel like I've progressed. And I know there's things I've done that are a good progression, but I don't feel like it's a huge leap. But it's funny, every time I do a new film, somebody tells me, "Man, this is really great. It's so, like, I could tell you're getting better. You're getting better." And I just think, wow, that must mean like 3 films ago I really sucked, because I don't feel like I'm getting that much better. I just feel like I'm telling a new story. But I think over time you get better till you get to a certain age, and then you don't realize then you're not getting better. You kind of go back to her. So,
you regress. Yeah.
But that's okay. That's nature.
Yeah, it's one of those things of like when somebody compliments you and they're like, "This is really good work," and you're like, "Oh, thank you," and they're like, "For once," and you're like, "Wait, what?" Like, no, but I will say, as a fan of your stuff and a friend and stuff, like watching your progress on each film and like how ambitious you get, and particularly to me, the growth I've seen in your work is more like your editing is just getting slicker and slicker. Like there's just cuts you're doing in the last like I think 3 or 4 that are so like pro filmmaker. Like and prior to that you've always been doing stuff, but it's like but it's like the it feels like you've leveled up like a ton in just the ambition, which is kind of wild. Like a good case in point, like Scott was asking you like how many cast members do you have in this one, you know? And
It's funny, I have it written down too. One of the challenges I've had with every film I've done that has multiple people in it is I screw up the credits. I constantly screw up because I'm doing the credits. If it was if I hired a firm, they wouldn't screw it up. But this one I've been writing down and rewatching the film and going, oh yeah, he just did this voice. So I probably have, like no exaggeration, probably have 22 people involved in this film, probably about that many at least. But like some of them only have one line.
Yeah.
You know? And then some of them, like Gary Hodges, will be completely cut from the film.
Yeah. Except for the one live action sequence that's in the movie.
And replaced with AI.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, Gary didn't realize he signed on that dotted line where you own his likeness.
About 6 comments ago, Edie Sedgwick has a question about the camera, the Leon.
Oh yeah.
Where is it? There. Yeah. He takes a photo and the camera's name is Leon. I know it says Leon, but Leon. That is my friend Nisam, who's a longtime collaborator of mine. It's actually his last name. He's Cuban.
Oh,
so
awesome.
Leon. So yeah, and his son Chris, by the way, Christopher Leon, I guess on Instagram, amazing filmmaker, amazing documentary maker, amazing editor. Like that guy's super talented. One of the nicest guys ever too. So Neeson, his loins produce some good product.
I think that's a
good job.
That's a good way of phrasing it. I love that. Your loins have done well, young man.
Yeah.
I think that it's interesting, and if people are like listening to this and they're kind of like, I don't know, 20 actors or whatever, like that, or 20, and keep in mind Jim does multiple characters himself in all of his animated movies, but if somebody's like, well, anytime I see like an animated movie, there's just like a mile long credit, Jim's one guy, one person doing everything. So to be like kind of facilitating like 20 different voice actors, even if it's for like a small part, and then also juggling so many characters, sequences, scenes, the full soundtracks. It's just kind of like wild. And this is another thing that I've noticed about your work recently. I wanted to ask you about. His loins produce some good product. I love that. It's now a perma quote. We should put next to that the sucking on chili dogs by the Tasty Freeze quote by John Mellencamp. Like, so to me, like one of the things, the progresses that I've seen in your work too, is like you are making longer and longer movies. Like, I don't know. I feel like, maybe, am I crazy here? It feels like something changed with like Cherries in the Snow and beyond. Yes. Do you feel like there was like kind of a thing there, like a breakthrough or something with that?
So I'll tell the quick origin story of the Jim Lujan.
Yeah.
In 1996 or 7, it might have been early 97. I had to start experimenting with animatic animation, just stills and then my voice, editing them on a VHS tape with a microphone and audio dub. And then I would film these little place cards, which I still have, these little art, and that's how I did my editing and cuts. And I made 2 2-minute cartoons, and then I made a 5-minute cartoon. And so I had like 3 or 4 total cartoons at that time. And I went to my local public access TV station, and I showed, there was a guy there named Richard Estrada. It was called Buenavision, this place in LA. And I showed him my work, and he's like, oh my God. Luckily he has the exact same sense of humor I did. So I said, yeah, you guys have room for a show? I'd do a card. He's like, yeah, you got more? And I'm like, yeah, and I didn't. Yeah, I got more. So he goes, yeah, okay, well, like in like 2 weeks, we could put you on. So I rushed home, and the next thing I did, he told me I needed 20 minutes of content, or 21 minutes of content. I had at the time like 8 minutes total. And so I went home and I made a 15-minute cartoon. So from the get-go, I've been comfortable making these longer cartoons. Yeah, and then years went by and I was doing all these short cartoons. And by the way, I did all the voices for years, years. And Nisam, my friend, was always on the board. He always did my theme songs. He sang them for me. And then one day I decided to I made a couple of 15-minute cartoons. And then years later, after making all these shorts, after playing Spike and Mike, which is where Josh saw me for the first time, I had a cartoon called Mama, I'm a Thug. And years and years went by, and then I decided to start making longer cartoons. And then I started making 10-minute cartoons and, 12-minute cartoons. And then I made a 16-minute cartoon. And then Cherries in the Snow was my first like 20-minute. Well, no, I did that counterclockwise in Foreverland, which is an hour long.
Yeah.
So I did that, and that changed everything as far as like, oh yeah, I want to do longer cartoons. And then from then I did Cherries in the Snow, which is like 20 minutes or something. Did like a 20-minute, 30-minute, that range. Realizing this, and anyone who has played film festivals will know what I'm talking about. When you do like a 20-minute project, it's perfect for not being selected. The right length to be too long for a short and too short for a long. So so I kept doing them because that's how I think. I kept doing, and I did it, and I found that my sweet spot was like doing these 20-minute films. So I did like 5 or 6 of them. And then I just realized, before I started the Full Fungus, I realized I just want to do a long cartoon. I know I'm going to, at the end of it, be exhausted and sick of it, but I just really crave doing a long cartoon with a lot of characters, inspired by The Big Lebowski and Pulp Fiction and all the stuff I've been doing for years.
Yeah.
And with some sort of musical theme running through it, something different. I've never done anything jazz related. So something like that. And everything kind of fell together. And the Chino Diamond, the lead detective with the roundish hair, that's like the second drawing I ever did of him. Like the one that's on the screen is like the second drawing I ever did of him. And I didn't refine him. I just defined him, if that makes sense. And I just really had the craving to do a long cartoon. So here I am, almost done with it. Right now, I think if you add everything I have together, I'm at like the 65-minute mark.
It's incredible.
Oh, I'm sorry, your name's not Mark, Josh. And so I'm almost done with it. And I have a bunch of other material drawn for it, just not animated. So I'll probably be working on this for another, into May for sure, because I'm gonna do the music in May. But hopefully I'm aiming for like a July release, maybe August. I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't say which year, but
yeah.
So
well, people should subscribe. Obviously, if you guys have not subscribed to Jim's channel, you should be subscribed so that when it drops, you can be among the first to see it. And if you really want to be among the first, you might want to consider Patreon and supporting Jim's Patreon, because he usually gives a little bit of early access to people who are.
So here's the salesman part of me. So the Full Fungus, and I talked with Corey about this. I think Corey, in May of last year, if you remember, we talked about this. It's right after we robbed that bank.
Mm-hmm.
We were in the car, and I told you that I really want to play festivals. Like I normally despise playing festivals. I've played festivals before, and I've gone. It's been 10 years at least since I played festivals. And it's been so long that I just like, you know what, this one I want to play festivals. and it's a feature length. I've never submitted a feature to festivals. So my thinking was this: there's less animated features submitted to festivals than there are animated shorts. So I should be able to get picked for at least a few. So
yeah, if you ever put it out on DVD, you're not going to have room for the artwork because there's going to be so many different laurels on there.
by the time I'm done with this, the DVDs will not exist. They will be downloaded to computer implant. So,
That's true.
But yeah,
the Elon Musk neural link.
If I could get a quarter of the amount of laurels that Corey has, Corey, he has a whole canyon full of laurels.
It's true.
Yeah.
You know what it's called?
I wonder.
Corey's Canyon. So
that's the trick. Is you got to come up with a really creative name.
Yes.
We have a couple questions from the chat. So Gary's asking, each new project, do you have a personal goal, challenge? Like I want to write something like this time, or I want to push this further, etc.
That's a good question, Gary. Very good. Yes, I think so. Before the full Fungus was ever started, I had done. I was coming off of like an action, corny, like 70s crime feel. Although all my stuff feels like it's in the 70s, but a movie. And then I did like my version of a horror movie, but wasn't really like a horror movie. Mm-hmm. And so I said, well, I
like how you're saying horror with one syllable.
A horror movie, scary movie.
Jim's making horror movies.
All my movies are horror movies. So, but I wanted to do something, it's funny. Funnily enough, when you don't want to do something, it's like a magnet, you get pulled there. Like I didn't want to, I don't want to do the same crime thing and the same, like Big Lebowski, Pulp Fiction type thing, and I ended up coming up with a story exactly like that. Like where,
you know what? That's a really interesting thing. I found that, because I love like all genres, right? And so like in my mind, I'm like, at some point I'm going to do like a young adult fiction story, like for kids and stuff like that, because that'd be a fun project. Or I'll do like an action story and stuff like that. And yet every time that I have an opening to work on something, I just end up like something in me is putting me in like slice of life stuff every time. And it's like, it is kind of, I wonder what that is with creatives where you maybe explore different lanes, but you still always end up being directed to a lane, even if like it's, I guess it would be kind of equivalent to like if you're like a metal musician, you keep writing metal songs, you love all music, but just for some reason you just find yourself like when you sit down, it's going to be metal, like, I don't know. What do you think that is, Jim?
Well,
that like kind of draws.
I don't know if Corey, are you vaping right now, Corey? Oh, okay.
No, that was his long pipe. Like there were going to be pot. He was going to do the circular smoke rings that like Gandalf does. Baggins? Yeah, exactly.
So to kind of address Gary's question, I think a couple of things also can influence the direction of where you want, where you want to go when you're creating the story. And this is going to sound dumb, but new toys, guitar, you get a new, I did get a new guitar, but that didn't influence this film. But
I'm sure it's going to be on the soundtrack, though.
Oh, absolutely, it is already. But I got a new character for this. Chino Diamond was the first character I came up with. Like, I want to tell a story with this guy. I just drew a picture of him one day. It kind of looks like Charlie Rossman in a weird, bizarro way. But that hairdo is the inspiration for it, I think, was Glenn Campbell.
Yeah.
Was the inspiration for his hairdo. And I just thought, and also,
we used to call it a hair helmet.
Yes. There's a lot of, and I think Gary might have said this, there's a lot of No Country for Old Men in this film, too, in influence, because Anton Chigurh, the villain, his hair, too. But
which is by the way one of the most incredible like villain hairs.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. So my new toy was Chino Diamond. I wanted to tell a story for this detective, and I also wanted to do one of my favorite films, the Long Goodbye, or is it The Long Good Night? I just choked on the title right now. Gary, please help me. But it's a detective movie from the 70s. Robert Altman. It stars Elliot Gould. And I wanted to do something kind of like that, like noir.
That kind of vibe.
I wanted to play with those tropes a little bit, but my own style. And it's funny. I used to think, why do people keep doing the same stuff over and over? Like, why did it the same tropes and everything? And I think I figured it out a little bit. When you do a trope, if you do it, you really with your own scent all over it, it's okay. It works. But when you do it with somebody else's, flavor, it's just a ripoff, or it's unoriginal. So
Yeah.
as long as you do, yeah. So
Yeah,
and a lot of great films are like that. A lot of the, but this one, story wise, if I had to compare it to anything, it would be The Big Lebowski, No Country for Old Men, because it's linear, but it just jumps all over the place.
Yeah.
A lot of puzzle pieces that come together, and that's why the trailer jumps all over the place too, because there's
But I love that even in the trailer you can sense that there's like some connecting threads, like throughout it, even though it's like wildly kind of all over the place. There's also like an indication of that thread. So I think that's a really interesting point about kind of like as long as you're kind of doing your take on something. And I think part of it might be maybe Scott and Corey can talk about this too, but it's like with with genres or whatever, like for instance, like Scott's doing this nostalgia thing on his channel, right, where he's kind of recreating, like reverse engineering nostalgic things, and I could see that going one of two ways. When I watch Scott do it, it's fun to watch because I can tell Scott like loves wax packs, and so when he's making wax packs, it's like you feel that energy, like he's making something new out of something he loved.
Are we talking about Scott's public channel or only Cirque?
Only Cirque is only for Patreon highest tier subscribers. Okay. But yeah, like I feel like when you're like authentically into something, you almost can't help but like play in that playground, and
yeah,
and so like I do kind of think that's interesting, but I also think it's fascinating that this came from one character. Where do you think that comes from, Jim, for you? I don't want to do the whole where does creativity come from thing, but kind of do. Like, what do you think it is about your personality that can sketch a character maybe loosely based on somebody you saw at a supermarket, or somebody, maybe a bit of tropes like you saw in a movie or something like that. And the second you have that character drawn, and I've seen you do this, like, we've hung out at like a bar and like just doodled, and I've seen you like sketch a character that's just out of thin air, and within 5 minutes you have their like backstory, their history, like everything about this person from just like a drawing, and I'm kind of curious what do you think it is about your mind that kind of allows like that sketch to kind of speak to you and give you so many like great little details about like a character's story and back history and stuff.
I think loneliness as a child, probably. It's really sad. No, you know what? I don't know, because I've always been able to look at a magazine and look at any photo of and do a voice caption for it. I've always had that. That's like my superpower.
Yeah,
mocking superpower. And it's just the same when I draw something. Where the drawing comes from, I don't know. Who knows? I've never questioned that. But like once they're drawn, I have an idea of, we're going to find out one day that when you create something on paper, it's an actual living thing, like in a universe somehow. In some weird way. It's like in the subatomic level, it's real, and you're a creator, and you're, But I just feel like a backstory for, I don't know. It seems right. That makes any sense. It doesn't make sense. I know.
No, I think it does. I think it's probably that, and I definitely have noticed that you're very observant. Like when we all get together and stuff, you will observe like little details about environments or restaurants or like people like in a corner. Like if there's a funny group at a table, you like instantly notice like a guy's like funny shirt or something, like, and not in like a mocking way, like in like a fascination.
I'm not a good impressionist. Get ready to type this quote, Corey, Gary, whatever.
Gory Cur.
Gory.
That's
Gary Gory
that's
but
that's Corey's horror personality.
Not a great impressionist, but I can capture the essence of a person very accurately.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
And I actually can. I can't do an imitation of Scott, but when I'm at the bank withdrawing money from his account, I can capture the essence of Scott very well. And I can. I mean, I think I can make it funny and like, oh yeah, I get what you're doing, but it doesn't sound like the person, you know? And that all comes to, I don't know, there has to be, what part of your brain do you use, or what part do you shut off when you look at something and do a voice for it? There you go. Yeah.
I wonder about that. I wonder about that with like thinking about it, you know, and Jim, I know you've had moments like this. Scott and Corey, especially Corey, I think with your current book that you're writing, right? This might be applicable, but it's like I've definitely found, you know, like I remember when I was working on Jacob's apartment, I got to a point in the story where the story took its own life. Like it literally took its own life.
To hear that.
But it took on its own life where
some prayers,
where two characters like kind of insisted, like weirdly enough, to go a different direction than what I had planned. And that was so weird to me because I was like, oh, I've created these characters that now are kind of their own beings, that they have to kind of do their thing. And I had put them in the environment and set up the scenario and stuff. But like, there is kind of a weird part, at least for me. Like there was a point in that process where it was weirdly like different characters that I had just, like, they just kind of took on, they were going to do what they were going to do because I had set up their character traits. So if you put them in the position, they have to be true to their character. Scott, have you ever found that too? Like where you'll kind of like draw a character and like just wild, you know, things come up about them. Like when you were coming up with Young and the Dead and the cast for that, you know, like how did you arrive at the differing characters? Was it playing off of tropes?
Not tropes.
I know some of it was a little biographical, right?
Yeah, it's semi-autobiographical. I mean, as much as the story about the zombie apocalypse in the 80s could be. But they're all I kind of based them on kids I knew. So that gives you a great jumping off point because it's easy just to, when you ask the question, like Gary's famous, what kind of chips do they eat? You know, well, I would know that right off the bat, you know, because I know their personalities. And some of them were kind of an amalgamation of a couple different people I knew, but that created a good starting point. And then from there I would change like certain things, like the tomboy in my stories is, you know, she's Russian, but you know, I didn't really know any like Russian kids, but
he just got that check from Russia to make the character.
My reason for doing that too was, besides just a little bit of a diversity thing, was because that's Cold War era.
Yeah.
You know, 80s. So I wanted some conflict between, they think she's a Russian spy or something, and just like some bickering back and forth, different things like that, you know, I wanted to do. So some of it's made up, but the starting point was just like, I remember this kid was kind of crazy. He would do this and this and this. And then so I automatically kind of know what my character would do.
So Scott, did you find that if you write a character very accurately, real life accurately, it doesn't play on the screen as well sometimes?
Yeah, it's like, I don't know if you ever heard like in Cartoonist Kayfabe talked about this a lot, but like whenever you hear like Rob Liefeld or these guys talking about their image titles, they've got all these fleshed out stories in their head, but none of it comes across on the page. There's like nothing there. So it's like, that's what this is about. Yeah, that doesn't come across. So hopefully I do a better job at that. But I don't know. I kind of went off in the weeds there. I don't know if that actually answers the question or not, but
No, I can kind of. I think it kind of semi does. I think Jim's driving at the idea of like if you're too true to life with some characters, it can almost like lose
yeah, no,
like a
and
sense of authenticity, even though it is being authentic, right? Is that where you were going, Jim?
Yeah, because I mean, if real life is not as well, real life characterization is way more subtle
Yeah.
than than the tropes that we're talking about.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's definitely amped up, and it's not, and it's a lot of it's they're played comically, so it's a little more larger than life and everything like that. So yeah, I mean and you only have so much, you only have so much time to get get your characters quote unquote voices across in the page. So
Yeah.
you kind of hit a little harder than you normally would if you had the time to really go into, really.
So speaking of larger than life characters, how about we do a little reveal here?
All right, I think that is a really good timing.
Would you like me to introduce each one as we go?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's start with we're starting with
Let's start with this guy.
Yes, this dude over here.
Well, Corey Kerr plays a couple of characters in this film, but one of them is a hippie, and I wish I remember the line. He says, "Oh, well, that's a very interesting take on postmodern intellectualism," or something. I don't know what he says. He said it really good too. And then Corey also plays a mobster. Some brief lines. Corey, had I known, your mobster is so good. Like you do that voice so well. I never would have thought.
Well, you caught me when I had a cold, so I could add a little bit extra, little gravel to the voice that I don't normally have. Yeah,
yeah, it was really good. But this guy here is a college student in 1968, and he's at a college. It's a really brief scene. But what was the college called? It was
Porter Rockwell University, right?
Porter Rockwell University, and Mink Fungus, the jazz guy, is speaking there, and everybody's just kind of going, "Wow, man, that's far out, groovy." And then Corey Sky says, "Oh, it's a very interesting take," and he nailed it. So
my favorite part of this character, though, is so far every time I show up in a Jim Lujan film, I die.
Yes, and it continues in this film. And people will say, well, Corey's character didn't die in this scene, but he's got terminal cancer. So this guy will die later. So
he dies off camera.
Or maybe he gets hit by a bus when he's leaving the college. Something happens.
There's still scenes to edit in. The film hasn't been done yet.
Just know that they will die horribly somehow.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Right.
But
the irony is that Corey can't be killed by conventional methods.
That's true. That's true. He's proven his infallibility.
And if you cut his head off, another one will grow. So.
It's true.
This is not probably his first head.
I think
that in the quote.
The thing I love about this image too is I think that this might be an indication of why, how Jim is able to come up with wild stories based on a character that he's drawn, because the way you draw characters, and this is something I don't know if people highlight enough about your drawings. It's like the way that you draw them, it instantly gives a story.
Somebody asked me the other day, and I took this as a compliment.
Yeah,
because it is. They asked me if I was a Dan Clowes fan, and I said absolutely, and that is a huge influence on my. Maybe not my exact style, but it definitely influenced on my taste.
Yeah,
I really enjoy Dan Clowes, but I grew up with Mad Magazine. But
yeah, I love it. I just love that there are so many. There are so many different, interesting details on this character. Like even just his sweater kind of thing going on there.
He's got it's a scarf. He has.
Yeah. It's so high written. You instantly get the voice that you were doing for it from just looking at it.
And
so I love that.
A lot of times I will use photo reference to draw somebody. This one I can tell just by the features. I can tell I didn't. This is made up. But
I thought it was just directly from Corey. It looks so much like him.
He does. He does have my really impressive eyelids that I'll have to have surgically removed at some point.
Yeah, so it's
Love
Corey had a baby with John Bonham. This is what it would look like. So, but well, speaking of, and this guy looks similar. The next character we're going to show,
Yes.
down,
All right.
down one.
Let's do this.
Scott.
Boom.
Oh, never mind. Oh, okay. Scott Serkland's character. Scott Serkland plays a character.
I love the TIE fighter back there.
Yes. And there's the Tarraco Cola that appears throughout the film.
Nice.
So Scott's character is the son of Chino Diamond. His name's Davy Diamond, and he is he grew up playing Dungeons and Dragons a lot. Was not much of a sports guy with his dad, although his dad loves him. He's a child of divorce, but he now works at a place called Medieval Knights, where he's a fighting knight for dinner theater. And he's kind of just eternally just kind of like, all right, Dad, like that type of a voice. Scott nails it, by the way. We won't put him on the spot to do it unless he wants to, but he's just very, he's not so much a dude, like, hey, dude, but he's more like, all right, well, don't move my figurines. Kind of like that type of guy. But,
all coming back to me.
Yeah, he's probably the more responsible one between him and his father. Probably he's got his life together a lot more than his dad does. But his dad needs him, and his dad actually Chino tries to bond with him in this film. And there's talk of going on a boat trip, together, and he wants to teach his dad Dungeons and Dragons. That's his dream still. So, but that's Davy Diamond.
I love it.
Right.
Hopefully, I mean, if you guys were watching, if that's not intriguing and doesn't make you want to watch the movie, I don't know. All right. Should we go to the third?
Yes, let's go to the grand finale here.
All right.
So this is the latest one. This is a character named Josh Kemble that appears towards the end of the film. This scene takes place in like 1977. And Josh is at a bar, and he runs into Mink Fungus, and he's like, "Wow, this is And Josh, do the voice. It's just your regular voice.
It's just kind of this voice.
Exactly.
Yeah, and honestly, it's just I write a lot of autobiographical stuff. This is autobiographical. I'm just much older than I look.
Yeah. So. Yeah. So and the hair's a little bit teased and tussled and. But it's great. I am so looking forward to actually animating this scene. I got 2 different shots drawn of you so far. But Scott, you asked earlier if or somebody asked if a chronological order. I jumped to the end because I wanted to get to this scene because this takes place in the last, section of the film. It's a flashback, and it's real pivotal. And so who else to put in there? But yeah, I'm so thankful that all 3 of you guys did voices, and Gary and Chris Runciman out there done voices.
I don't think any of us need your thanks. We're all pretty stoked to just be a part of it, man. That's a huge thing, being able to be in a Jim Lujan
Are you,
cartoon.
Josh? Are you an Iggy Pop fan in real life, or is it just for the cartoon?
I am a huge fan. The Stooges are probably one of my favorite bands of all time. So
I love the Stooges as well. Yeah. So
and I loved them back when I met Mink Fungus. I mean, that's why I was wearing the
That's true. Yeah.
There's tell that I might have been one of the last people to speak.
That's true.
Fungus. You guys need to find that out by watching this movie.
So, and then Edie Cedric also says Jesus, or I don't know if they're saying Jesus or Jesus. I'm assuming they're saying Jesus.
There's a laughing, crying emoji, so I think it's a happy one.
It's either shock at how well you have done that drawing, or a guess at who the drawing is. It's one of those.
Yeah, I did kind of capture his essence.
Captured it, stored it in a small glass bottle next to your bed.
And I'm going to make little mini Joshes out of it. But they're going to be half Josh, half ferret.
Oh no! I love it. You know what's funny? It's funny that you mentioned Ferret. I rewatched Kindergarten Cop like a week or two ago, and that movie had a ferret, and I think that might have been the first time in my life I learned what a ferret was.
The film's okay, but I like the book better. But
Kindergarten Cop. Wouldn't that be great if that was like some heavy, high literary work?
yeah,
It's like
I
taught
want it.
in
I want it to
English
be like
lit
a.
classes.
I want it to be a 9-page board book where the pages are like half an inch thick, and 3 of them are anatomical references.
By the way, Christopher Runciman, you just that accidentally have to post that. Oh, I'm embarrassed.
Oh, sorry, I clicked on the wrong button.
That was embarrassing. Wow, I'm so embarrassed that you. Thank you, but he does.
Can't figure out how to take it off the screen. We'll just have to leave it up there for a long time.
Put the Essence quote back up.
Oscar nominated Bill Plimpton.
So yeah, all 3 of y'all's are in the film. I'd say the most screen time would be Scott. He does have the most screen time. Josh, you have a very pivotal scene, and Corey is there for the audience to be empathetic, like to his deaths.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the Kenny of the group.
Yes, yeah, he's the red shirt of the group.
Yeah.
So,
Is there an equivalent to like red shirts in Jim Lujan cartoons that we haven't noticed yet? Like a certain costume that
they're usually the main characters. They're all red shirts. So to be fair, and this is true, I've said this forever. When I see a movie and they have the lead being some typical Hollywood-looking actor, and then they have a sidekick come over, hey, I got the drugs, or whatever movie it is. It's not a tumor. I'm always way more interested in the side character. Yeah. I'm always been a Keith Richards guy, not so much a Mick Jagger guy.
Yeah.
You know, I'm way more into Che Guevara than I am Fidel Castro. So no, I just made that up. But I have always liked the side guy, you know, but he's gonna type this one. I've always liked the side guy more than the main guy.
No, I can understand. I think that actually does describe like kind of what you do, because it is nice and refreshing that in your stories you usually pick a main character that would generally not be the main character.
Absolutely.
Yeah, if it was live action, all your main characters would be character actors.
Yeah.
And not like movie stars.
Wait, go like this again, Scott, because it was a very Catwoman look for a minute.
That's true.
That glove was very sensual. But yeah, there's the quote. I have to say I like the quote. Yeah, but I don't know. And you watch a movie and they cast a certain looking actor, and this guy's gonna die, or that this hero's not going to die because he looks a certain way. And I don't know. I think Gary's side guy, Dr. Hodges.
Yeah. Is that what we're doing, Gary? Is that what we're doing?
Really, Gary? That's what we're doing. So, and yes, I agree. Character actors are better actors than the stars are. Yeah, 100%. So I don't know. I just think, it's a broken method. I think Hollywood is so afraid to do that, but I think the audiences would accept it. I really do. I think, well, now we're living in the age of like the anti-hero, but even the anti-hero has to be like a cool anti-hero.
Yeah.
I mean, it can't be
with a six-pack.
Yeah, and it's like, I'm the anti-hero because I don't like rules and I break them, except for the Hollywood standard rules.
I'm a cop, but I don't follow the law to get justice.
Yeah. You're a wild card, McMillan. Yeah.
So I think thinking about it, one of being a cartoonist, I loved American Splendor the movie, but part of that's because Paul Giamatti is the lead guy, and then he's playing Picard, and it's perfect casting because he's one of those actors that is not the Hollywood guy, but he's such a good character actor that he can play somebody as complex and strange as Picard. And I'd love to see more characters.
I know
like
this
that in
this
film,
isn't
you know?
top 5, but one of my top movies is Sideways with
Yeah.
Paul Giamatti.
Oh, it's so good. And
Yeah.
that actually has similarities to some Lujan kind of stuff.
Absolutely, yeah.
Which took place in my hometown.
Oh yes, right.
And full circle.
Don't tell anyone. Don't tell anyone
never
where
seen
it
it.
is.
I just remember being very, very surprised in the trailer when I was like, "Oh, yeah, that's where I grew up."
Why were you watched it in a trailer? I don't understand. What?
That's where I grew up, in the trailer.
In the trailer.
Which is where I watched all the movies, Jim. Not everybody was born with a silver spoon in their mouth.
That's painful for your mom, but we made a pilgrimage to Corey's home.
It's true.
Near my home. You guys
Near
came
your
up to
home.
visit me and then made me drive an hour to see you every time.
And it was a literal pilgrimage. Like we had a covered wagon.
I had a
all rode
pilgrim
together.
hat.
Several oxen died of dysentery.
Yeah, we had to kind of press a restart a couple times because dysentery on the Oregon Trail.
Yeah.
For some reason, Jim didn't start out as a banker. He started out as one of the other characters. I don't know.
Terrible. It was very sad. But I gave you corn.
I appreciate that.
Or as my people call it,
I spun in circles, shooting as many squirrels as I possibly could.
and then we burned the females because they're witches, right?
Yeah.
Is that the right era? I don't know.
I don't think so.
I don't know, but I do love that Gary just said oxen, and I just realized that needs to be brought back as a term. Oxen,
Which actually should be the name of our hair metal band.
Yes, oxen.
Yeah.
Oxen's when we go metal. Okay.
There's your next fake explosion band.
Okay. To deviate just for a second from Fake Explosion, because we're going to play the trailer a second time in about 20 seconds. So, but to deviate for a second, Jim, what compels you amid working on the longest movie you've ever made and juggling the editing and all the complexity of it? And this plot is wildly complex.
Well, number one, the power of Christ compels me.
What compels you to also release some unknown American heroes that also have made music?
I think you're talking about I know what you're talking about. You're talking about Rick Murphy and another artist named Livingstone.
Yes.
And
what
there's
compels
more
you
come.
to take on the process of helping these unheard of musicians see the light of day?
You know how Sean Puffy Combs has a stable of artists? I'm exactly like P. Diddy. Exactly.
In every way.
I'm exactly like P. Diddy. Call me Jim Diddy from now on.
J. Diddy,
And,
yeah. I love it.
And I just produce all these artists that just need to be heard. So if you guys go look up Livingstone, if you go to jimlujan.com, I think, and you look at my videos, I think you'll find Livingstone, an album by that guy. He's a great American artist, tough as nails, just a real working man. And you'll also find Rick Murphy, who the ladies love and they can't stay away from, and he knows it.
Yeah.
And it's slick baby making music. I think we can all agree.
It's true. It's true. If you're on a first date and you put on some Rick Murphy,
I think we have this. By the way, I think we have the award for the strangest but most hilarious quote from Dylan. It's the very last quote. Please put that on the screen for one moment.
Hold on, I gotta jump back over. Oh, I lost it.
And then Gary will get back to. I knew Jim was going to say Christ. Wow. That should stay up there. Okay, but back to Gary's question. Puffy Jim. Yeah. I'm trying not to be so puffy. I'm cutting carbs out a little bit. But Gary asked, will there be more trailers? Yes, there's going to be another trailer coming. I don't know when. I won't say soon, but someday. But it's going to be a Mink Fungus centered trailer. So you get to see the man, Mink Fungus. Mink Fungus is, as we all know, the legendary jazz artist who was in trouble with the police quite a bit, had a bit of a substance, recreational issue. And I don't know why I did Groucho.
I do love the kind of Churchillian the substance of your
Yes. And we will conquer through the sea, through the land. And how did I come up with the name The Full Fungus?
Yes.
Literally, in my telephone device, I will randomly, I don't know, out of the ether, come up with these titles for projects and just write them down. And about 4 or 5 years ago, I don't know why, I just wrote down The Full Fungus. That sounds really funny. That could be a book or something one day. And then when I finished another one that is the exact same scenario, The Night Eats Its Own, I had that title for a long time. I said, well, what's my next film? I don't know what I want to do a feature. What would look good on a poster and catch people's attention? I went, oh, The Full Fungus. I'm going to call it that, whatever I do. And then what is The Full Fungus? Instantly, like a lightning bolt, it came to me. I said, The Full Fungus is a jazz piece of music. It's like The Full Fungus. It's like for some reason, and who is Fungus? Mink Fungus.
Yeah.
That's what he is. So that built all right there. And I said, okay, I have to come up with a story. And then I created, I said, I need a character, maybe a detective. It could be a detective noir jazz. Now that I have the jazz theme, it could be a modern LA noir detective story, but I need a character. And that's when I drew. And I think on my Instagram, I have the first drawing of Chino Diamond there. And then I did a second one and I stuck with it, and the rest is history. We're making history, kids.
I love it. Okay, that's a good start, kind of good cue up to play the trailer. So
It's a nice day to start again.
It's true. So
Hey,
here is
sister.
a recycle.
Hey, little sister. Who's the one you love?
All right, here is the trailer for a second time.
My name is Chino Diamond. I'm a private eye. My father used to say there are two types of people in the world: greedy and stupid. Well, there's a third: greedy and stupid. And dangerous.
Shut up.
It's a missing piece of music I think might be right up your alley. What do you know about The Full Fungus?
Well, let me stop you right there. It's a myth. Doesn't exist. If it did, somebody would have found it by now.
You think you're the first private eye to come looking for the Full Fungus tapes?
Wilt's been missing for almost a month now. It's not like him.
All right, enough games. You want the truth? Here we go.
Larry Carlisle, you know, the game show host? He's hired me to find his missing son-in-law.
Larry Carlisle? That guy's a douche.
Say, would you look at that?
Every answer leads to a new question. Every question leads to a lie. My name is Chino Diamond. I'm a private eye.
Oh, we're doing that? We're doing that now? That's what we're doing?
I keep forgetting that doesn't automatically come off the screen when it's done.
You got a super chat.
I can't believe we got a super chat from Jim Lujan, the famous animator. Left
talk about payola. I mean, geez.
Yeah, now it's fully legal. You actually can go to jail now.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't know this was.
I have to mention Malia Kerr is in this film. Did you know that, Corey?
I heard. Yeah, was she in the trailer twice or once?
She's once.
Okay.
Well,
So
the character might be more than once. Her voice, I think, is once.
Because she's in the diner and then she's in the ring. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, just like in real life.
Right.
She's in the kitchen and then in the ring.
Right. Yeah,
I
my
love it
wife,
though. Like
my wife, the MMA fighter.
Yeah, and Malia, this isn't her first Jim Lujan cartoon, right? For voices.
No, I don't. No. Corey and I worked on an Unchained Aggression together, and she was in that.
She played one of the bimbos at the bar.
She's a professional actress.
Well, she had a bigger role in another.
Was she in another one too?
Yeah, she had a huge in. Wasn't she in? What's the one about the housewife?
No. I don't think she's in Pleasure Beast. No,
who was played? Oh, I'm sorry. Who played?
That's Lisa Huff.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Who's also in this as well. And as a matter of fact,
Okay.
I just was editing before the show, editing some of her lines. She's great in this. Oh, Tom Racine and his wife Kim are in this film. There's so many people. Probably your family members. Everyone watching, you have a cousin that's in this film.
Yeah.
Ugly. Yeah.
Yeah, I just found out today that my dog Bernie is in it. It's like it's crazy. Even pets. It's
so nuts. It's you have a dog named Bernie.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
You know what this is a trip. It was literally when Sanders was running, and we like ended up rescuing this dog, and its name just by chance was Bernie, and we're like, it's kind of meant to be.
Does your dog complain about the health care you give him?
He's like, how come there's only 2% of dog food and the 99% of the dog food is not in my dish? But I think this is going to be really cool to see. And I think that we were going to talk, like for motivation and determination, because you've been at this for a year on this project. And I think when you start describing the characters, or just like the initial inception of the idea, like the full fungus sounded interesting. Okay, well, what's the full fungus? And this kind of improvisational thing that's going on where it's like, what's the full fungus? Oh, I guess it's going to be a piece of music. Who made the music? You're just kind of following with questions that get really interesting and more in depth. And to me, I think maybe, I wonder, do you think maybe some of that curiosity, the ability to kind of go, why does this guy have like a scar on his cheek or something? Like, why does this guy have a scarf?
You know what? Like, we failed to mention the My factor.
Yeah.
As well with the title of it.
Yeah.
Because I
this
run
is the new test.
Each title by My.
Yeah.
Josh's wife, and he says, "Hey, what do you think of this title?" He says it, and I hear her laugh.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's true. It's like the.
Oh yeah, there's something about every single Jim Lujan cartoon name that if I even am like talking to Jim on the phone or like on a podcast or anything, anytime I'm talking to Jim and I mention one of his movie names, yeah, my wife, if she's in the room, will be giggling. So that's a testament to how goofy and great those names are.
I must say now, this is actually the reason I make these films. There's no other.
Just to make Josh's wife giggle.
Yeah.
It's not uncomfortable at all.
Corey. I think I don't know. So I do kind of wonder though, like, do you think that maybe that's what keeps you kind of making animation, is the curiosity of like discovering unknown characters?
Yeah, I think so. Because immediately after this film, I'm thinking I don't want to do another feature.
Yeah.
I kind of know what I do want to do, and it's very blurry, but it's a certain vibe, and it's character driven. Yeah, it's the characters that push it along. The title, funnily enough, the title is a big deal to me.
Yeah,
that's part of the fun. But yeah, it's. I don't think I sit back and say I want to do a Western or I want to do this or that. It's more just a weird, blurry vision of something, a direction I want to go into.
Yeah.
Also, and this is true since I've been a kid, when I set out to draw something or create something, it doesn't come out exactly the way it is in my head.
I think
so. I could try and as a kid do a John Byrne looking drawing, and it wouldn't look nothing like John, but it looks like I drew it.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with when I make films. I set out to do something, and it kind of takes its own. It doesn't take its own life, unlike Josh's.
Yeah, my books take their own life. Yeah.
Yes, they're very sad. So
Yeah.
we try to talk to his books, but
Yeah, I know. We try to have them, reach out, but they just can't.
But the film has its own path, and it kind of well, I think that's a testament to our conversation here. But yeah,
that's what we aim for, Edie. Is we're always aiming to put people to sleep.
Yeah, we have gentle rain and sounds in the background. You just put the head earbuds on and fall asleep to our voices.
You know who has a voice that could narrate a book and you would fall asleep, like not in a negative way, just a very charming voice, right? And I think might be doing some voices in this is Christopher Runciman. He has a golden voice.
Yes,
like unbelievable voice.
Christopher Runciman plays several roles in this film. The main one being that of the ongoing running joke bowling announcer. He does such an amazing job. He just ran with it. Chris is like a Robin Williams. He just you give him, here's some lines, and he's like, oh, I got this. And the ad-libs he gives you are better than the lines that you write for him. Unlike Gary Hodges, who is a diva, I'll just say it now.
Yeah.
Demanding diva, and threw water in my face.
Yeah, it's true. Every time we have him on Artcasters too, he like insists on specific, like 1984 Avion bottles. I don't know why and how we're supposed to find.
And he only wants brown M&Ms.
Yeah,
by the way.
yeah.
Only the brown.
So we're sporting M&Ms backstage all the time.
Yeah. By the way, thank you for everyone on the East Coast that attempted to stay up to watch.
Yes.
This is super appreciated. I get it. I thought at one point you guys were going an hour earlier, but I don't know what happened to that. I don't know.
We're going on Arizona time, which doesn't change, and the rest of the world does.
Yeah.
And so this is still the same time for Scott.
We're just forced to revolve around Scott, basically.
Yes. It's a Cirque world. We just live in it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, but thank you everybody that stayed.
Although, the world is not a circle. Okay, we're going to stick with the Atmos. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. I told Jim, you know about that, right? Like I found it fascinating. I had a week or two where just for fun, I watched some flat earth stuff because I thought it was hilarious. And I didn't realize that people who believe in a flat earth don't say atmosphere because the word sphere is offensive. And so they say Atmos. And I just thought that was the funniest little detail. Like, to me, that was just the funniest detail I had ever.
Funniest
thing I'd heard.
You know what? They just missed the joke. They could have called it the flatmosphere.
The flatmosphere. That's true. That's so true.
They left money on the table.
My favorite flat earther quote is the one where the guy said, "You guys are making fun of us, but there are people all over the globe that believe that the world is flat."
Did they really say that?
Yeah,
oh my goodness. Okay.
That's good stuff.
Apologies to our friends.
I have no proof that it's not flat. I personally have no proof.
I just have the proof of every pilot who hasn't flown off of the edge, or every scientist on Earth.
Well, if you want to get technical.
Right.
I mean, if you want to talk, math and science, so I think that this is going to be really cool. You're almost there. How does it feel at this point in the project? Like at the beginning, there's like, I'm sure like the fun of like the newness and figuring stuff out. There's the middle stretch that you've talked to me about when I was like knee deep in the middle of my project, still kind of there in the middle section where you kind of feel like you're just treading water and trying to keep yourself interested and find direction.
Yeah.
Sometimes directions that are new. But you're at the point where we're further, right?
Josh, I think
Yes.
about this a lot. Your project and my project, there's a lot of similarities. Like we are in the same because we both work
Yeah.
full jobs
Yeah.
and we both have limited time to work on the project. So when we work on the project, we attack it.
Yeah.
So like I don't watch. I mean, this is the only time I can sound very intellectual. I don't watch much television.
Yes.
Yeah. But I don't because I can't sit down and watch like a whole series because it takes time away from creating stuff.
Yeah.
I'm very selective with what I watch, which is all PDD videos over and over on a loop.
Exactly.
But,
because you gotta
because I
kinda
can't
learn-
stop and I won't stop.
Yeah.
So
You gotta learn how to handle your many musicians.
that's
you know?
right.
Yeah.
So we both have a limited amount of time to work on this stuff, and so when we do work on it, we try to maximize that time and make the most of it. I also am a huge hypocrite because I was talking to our beloved Paul Pate a couple of days ago, and I said, "You know what, Paul? I'm kind of realizing that there's a lot of process people on YouTube, not as much product. There's a lot of people talking about the process, but not the finished product."
Yeah.
And immediately I said, "Well, hey, I'm going to be on the Artcasters coming up, and don't forget to catch, hey man, how's your movie going? My process diary of." Yeah, I'm part of the problem, but
I don't think there's anything wrong with talking about process. There's just way too few people that actually finish and ship a product.
Yeah, not to sound like old man Jones, but when we were kids, it was flipped. It was all product, and then once in a while you'd see a process thing, and it was special. You're like,
where you're like,
now-
oh, they're talking inking pens. Oh my gosh,
Yes.
I gotta
I
write
used
this
to
down.
like the making of Star Wars when that came on television. I was like, I would watch that thing over and over again, and I'd go out with the wrench and start banging on those taut wires, trying to make laser sounds and stuff like that.
So, now we're in a world now we live where it's process first, and then you see the product, and then But we're also live in a world where there's infinite choices of things to watch.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't spend almost any time thinking about that because it's such a you get overwhelmed when you think about that stuff. I just I focus on what feels right creatively, and I just go from there. And I obviously don't think about the money part of making huge money on the stuff.
Yeah,
But
I mean, you're already a millionaire.
I have so much money. I've tried to figure it out that if I try to spend all my money in my lifetime, I wouldn't be able to because it regenerates so quickly.
Yeah.
So just the interest alone, it's just ridiculous. It's a burden. You guys don't understand.
Internet wealth, net worth money.
It's so much interest that you're accruing that you become disinterested.
That's right. That's right. So it's a curse, but I'll live with it. But I do not think about the end game of things. Can I name drop very quickly here?
No, but thank you for asking.
Casually name drop.
I was going to let you, but your fleet of yachts that are dumping flaming plastic straws in the ocean offends me.
I took a jet to the conference on global warming, and I took the long way around.
Yeah,
but
the scenic route.
So the other day,
it was in Phoenix, but you flew west.
It was actually in Los Angeles. I just flew around the earth.
Exactly.
So, but the other day I was hanging out with my good friend Chris Pronowski at Titmouse. Oh, the founder of Titmouse.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the founder of Titmouse. And we get together every 3 years or so. We reminisce and we just have a really good heart to heart. He is truly, like I say, he's my animation Yoda. He's so wise. And we met and talked, and we kind of talked about what we're talking about now. Not about P. Diddy, about how there's so much process out there, but there's not enough product. I don't know what to say. There's no fix for that, really. I guess it would be just to make absolutely sure that you make the product, that you're not just making process, that you make the product. I can kind of talk because I have a lot of product I've made.
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
It's gonna be really interesting soon when we are just choking on the deluge of AI generated product.
yeah,
Because like process stuff is almost becoming a currency of proof that you actually made it as a person.
Mm.
And so it'll be interesting to see when people can just say, "Hey, make me 50 movies about, whatever." And then the AI will just spit out, hundreds of hours of edited footage.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
going to be fascinating to see what happens.
I'm totally guilty with enjoying some AI, like 1950s Star Wars trailers and things like that. I mean, I know they're can be a little bit nightmarish, but I'm sorry, but I know they steal design from the Breath of Children, but it does the end result kind of looks cool sometimes.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
I really do believe in within 10 years, I believe. And again, when I went to Titmouse, we talked about this a lot. I think that like movies and music are super, I won't say threatened, but they're going to be driven by AIs. You're going to have like producers. I don't mean music producers. I mean like, hey, I'm a producer. They're
Yeah.
going to be speaking prompts into a thing and the actors won't be used. And I think it's going that way. But I also firmly believe, just like there's electronic music out now, but there's
Yeah.
still a market for homemade, handmade music.
Yeah.
There's always going to be, we're still looking at cave paintings
Yeah.
in France. So I always believe that handmade stuff with errors and flaws will always, I believe the human soul is irreplaceable. I don't believe a machine will ever totally capture that.
Yeah.
I believe, that there will always be a place for artists that make stuff, that's not AI. It's
Yeah,
gonna
I'm
be
always
interesting.
tempted. I'm always tempted to think of like in the '80s, there was a lot of talk of like the synthesizer killing guitar,
Right, right.
and that's like pre the kind of grunge like revolution kind of music where just guitar came back big, and it's like
Corey
you know
Kerr hates AI so much that he doesn't even have an A or an I in his name.
it's true. It's
So
true.
that's
He's
just
fighting it.
That
yeah.
was intentional.
I
It was
But
know.
a decision I made really early on in my life. Stuck with it.
Yeah, as a child.
I love the idea of focusing less on certain process conversations. In that conversation we were all having, it dawned on me like I kind of agree with the idea of being kind of burnt out on process stuff. Like back when Kevin and I used to do Big Illustration Party Time, we would ask process questions, but that's partially because nobody was talking about comics
Right.
and stuff. So we'd be like,
Right.
what paper do you use? We use
Right.
Strathmore Bristle like 400 series. What do you
Right.
use? And it was a refreshing conversation because it's talking shop. Whereas now I think I'm more interested in things like the process of creation itself rather than the process of like what program you use to get there or what tool. I'm not so interested in the tools anymore.
I know
and
I have a
yeah,
theory on why we all hate this now.
yeah,
It's because the algorithms ruined it. Like the algorithms trained everyone to produce content for the algorithm.
Yeah.
And the easiest content to produce on a consistent basis
yeah,
is like, I'm still working on my thing. I
Yeah.
guess I'll talk about what I did today,
yeah,
And
Yeah, the
so,
algorithm's terrible, and God bless you, YouTube, but you suggest some of the most like boring or like things I don't care about.
yeah,
Yeah.
my favorite thing about YouTube is I have turned off all of the tracking that it can do to me, and so whenever I'll see like something and I'll click on it, and it literally has a page underneath that says, "You've turned off the tracking, so we can't suggest anything to you." And I'm like, "Good, you're terrible at that." It's one of my favorite things. I love it so much.
How do you do that?
Turn off your history. There's a couple.
Yeah.
There's a couple things you can turn off, but like you know those little shorts of the people that you follow. So
Yeah.
your like subscriber tab.
Uh,
I'll like watch one of those, and I'll flip to the next one, and it's just a blank page that says, "We can't suggest any more content because you won't let us track you." And I'm like, "Good."
Corey, tell me the
Yeah.
truth. Have you ever said the sentence, I swear, Malia, I turned off my history because it's the privacy issue that I have?
I have not.
You know, one thing I also think helps with the algorithm, weirdly enough, like I equally will get like weird suggestions, but I also like I don't consume like as much like art related stuff. A lot of the content that I'll watch is like just bizarre stuff. Like sometimes it's fun to just watch like a police interrogation,
Yeah.
or sometimes it's fun to watch like a guitar review, or like things that are outside of kind of like my scope professionally. And I think we've talked about that. Wow, that's amazing. Your watch history is off. There's the notification. We got to make that big. Hold on a second.
Your
Wow.
watch history's off.
Okay, now Corey, go to the part on your phone that has your social security number real quick.
Well, we already have it. All of us.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, okay. Yeah, like I think that we've talked about this and before a little bit, like at our meetups and stuff, where sometimes like artists don't like comic book artists, all they're doing is reading comics, and then they end up kind of rehashing comic stuff, or animators, all they're doing is watching like animations. So then you end up with like 50 shows that are The Simpsons with a twist, or whatever, you know, the current animation is. And I think one thing that and I know we're getting close to like 2 hours, so we definitely need to probably wrap soon. But
let's do like a Joe Rogan. Let's do 6 hours.
6 hours. Yeah, exactly. Have you ever done DMT, Jim? Have you ever
Only
thought
when I'm
about
eating
expanding your
venison.
man? And those vaccines, man. Anyhow, so I think that like with your cartoons, like one of the things that makes them really unique is you are pulling a lot from film, not just other animation, and then also from music and rock history and like old 70s TV shows. There's like, and then also just from observation of life and like weird. I've always tried to describe Lujan cartoons. It's like I feel like it's like a weird drive in Riverside. Sometimes like it's an interesting. It's always the outskirt parts of the major city. Or like the strange liquor store that's not quite the most frequented liquor store. It's just like off in the corner.
So please allow me to be slightly more pretentious than I was.
Yes, be more pretentious.
I watched this documentary on Basquiat, and where his inspirations for his paintings came from, and it's actually fascinating. Trust me on this. It's really He had 2 books that he pulled most of his inspiration from. One was a design book, and it was symbols, like weird symbols. Like one of them was man dying is like a symbol, like a Y and a stick through it.
I saw that. So yeah.
You saw that too, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
YouTube recommended it to me. The one time they get it right.
I think me too. Yeah, same thing. And I was like, why am I watching this documentary on Jay-Z? I don't understand. Oh, it's Basquiat. So because he looks like Jay-Z, or vice versa. But anyways, and the other book was a book on African art that he and how it's not so much about African art, but more how certain things were suppressed and certain things were taken and certain things were. It was just really interesting. But that was informed so much of his art. I know there's art majors out there that are like, you're completely wrong, pretentious Jim. But what I'm trying to say is I'm exactly like Basquiat. Exactly.
Yeah.
So
you're like, I have 2 books. I pulled.
I've read 2 books in my life. One of them has a bunch of pictures in it. But I think we are inspired by what we watch and what we see.
Yeah.
So if you're watching other mass media, typical type stuff, you'll do stuff that fits in there probably.
Yeah.
And I just have an odd range of things that I like. Put it to you this way: when I'm in the car listening to music, I tend to listen to the same stuff like over and over and over. And are we doing the Brady Bunch here?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there with the wild camera. This is like
Corey,
special effects, you
Go
guys.
ahead and take my pretentiousness. I'm sorry. Okay, I'll go back to arrogance. So, anyways, let's just keep it like this, please. Yes.
I love it.
So yeah. Anyway, so read 2 books and stick with that. That's my advice to you. And
Actually,
and God made Corey sneeze because of that.
I think that's
You know
great.
what?
Yeah,
You're welcome.
karma
God bless.
there. Karma. That was Karmic Retribution that you guys just watched. So
Karmic Retribution. It's a great band name.
that would be. All right, so I think it's about time to kind of wrap because we're going long. I think that that is something to consider, and like to me, one thing I think of a lot when I think of like when we all met up. The last time we all met up, like at a restaurant, we went to. I think Corey, like your brother or cousin was there, and we were all talking because on the way to this restaurant, there was like this weird antique shop with just weird stuff in it.
Oh yeah, Pasadena.
And so we walked past it, and then we're at the restaurant having a conversation, and one of us is like, "Oh, we should go to that antique shop." And I think your cousin was kind of like, "That's funny," and we're like, "No, like we really should go to that weird antique shop." Like, and we spent like a good hour or so in there just looking at weird stuff, like interesting, weird, crazy, fascinating stuff in this store. And I think there's something about that kind of thing too that might draw all of us to like being creative. That it's really interesting. Like for me, if I'm like eating a popsicle and I see a weird 1950s package on it, right? I'm just like, the package is interesting. It makes me want to play with maybe a color palette that's similar or something like that. It's like there's interesting things everywhere to kind of pull inspiration
Corey,
from. Yeah.
Can you type up Josh when I'm eating a popsicle? The package is interesting.
Well, I mean,
Yes.
or if I'm like sucking on a chili dog,
I was waiting for a thing where I could interject Josh's love of German World War II memorabilia.
That's true. Yeah, everybody was
that's
looking
true.
at all the cool vintage stuff, and for some reason, I'm in the corner looking at. I'm
He
like,
kept
"Come on."
saying over and over, "It's an Indian symbol."
Look, I'm just interested in the history here. That's all.
I really like eagles.
All right. Well, with all that being said, Jim, is there any last minute thing before we play the clip one last time and then close out?
Wow. Well, I sincerely want to thank everyone who's done. I know how it is to do voices for someone else's project. Bill Plimpton. Excuse me. I accidentally coughed. Bill Plimpton there.
Mm-hmm.
And then get called and say, "Hey, can you add this line or do that?" And I'm guilty of doing that to people. "Hey, can you add this line? I really need this connector." But thank you for everybody who's done that. I really appreciate it. We're coming around the mountain with the project. Everyone who's in the film, you're going to get a secret link to it, and everyone who's on my Patreon will get a secret link to the film. I have no idea what the rules are when you submit to festivals. If it's not, I'm going to talk to Corey, by the way, about this because he's the festival king. And see, Corey, people don't know this, but Corey secretly is a Jim Lujan. So he's very secretly.
I don't know what that means, but I'll take it.
All right. But thank you everybody. And I will figure out where this is going to play. Like I said, I'm aiming for festivals. But once it's done, it'll be done. And there's the end. But,
awesome.
Cirque 22 forever.
Cirque 22. I love it. I think that it's going to be a project worth watching. And again, you guys should be following Jim's stuff if you're not already, just to make sure you see it when it drops. We're going to watch. We're going to close out. Usually we close out with the Artcasters theme, but you know what? How about we say our extras and then we'll close out with one last view of the trailers. So if you guys have been watching this, you're on my channel. If you haven't yet, hit subscribe, hit the bell so you get notifications when we're about to go live. And make sure you pick up Jacob's Apartment or Two Stories if you're interested in books that kill themselves. Corey, where can people read your stuff?
You can find my stuff at coreykerr.com/email, where I am publishing one chapter at a time as I write them. And they're interesting. It's important to find out why you need to punch babies and old people in the face. That is in this book. It's very important.
They
So
deserve
go
it.
check that out.
I love it. And okay, Jim, where can everybody find your work?
I'm going to tell them jimlujan.com. Jim Lujan on Patreon. If I show exclusive clips there all the time. Not all the time. Okay, never. But no, I do. And also Instagram too. Instagram's good. So it's all under my name. And Corey's yawning. I'm sorry.
Why is that, Jim? Why is everything?
I seem to happen every time we talk. Corey yawns. So,
I just yawn all the time.
You can't say yawn. Have you guys ever tried the experiment where you say like yawn in a crowded room and you just look around?
You do that?
Yeah.
And
exactly.
That's how you can tell if somebody is a sociopath or not.
Oh, really?
What?
Why?
Because they don't have an empathetic response. Yawning is an
Oh, if they
empathetic
don't
response.
yawn. Okay.
I thought it's because they put their hand in your mouth.
Have you ever tried this test and like, because Corey, you're a teacher, have you ever
All
tried that in a
all I
room?
know is,
and
Josh,
just
you
written down
didn't, you
which
didn't
kids-
yawn and Scott did. So
I've been fighting it this whole time. Darn it. Stop saying yawn. Okay. Okay. So then we've got Scott to close us out. Scott, how can people check out your work? And after that, how do they keep track of this crazy train that is the Artcasters? Which, by the way, Jim, thank you for the theme of the Artcasters. It literally gets stuck in my head to the point where every night when we're about to do Artcasters, I'm like, "Ooh, Artcasters!" And then I'm like, "That's pretty great that you made that." So anyhow, so how do they keep track of this crazy business, Scott?
So, well, do I get to tell where to find my stuff first?
100%.
No, if you got actually, I have a YouTube channel where I am reverse engineering nostalgia ephemera from the 70s, 80s, and 90s, putting my own unique spin on it. If you want to see what that means, just go check out some of my latest videos. And some of those videos include me creating wax pack trading cards, like vintage style wax pack trading cards, which you can find some of those creations on my website at circworks.com. I've got some new ones up there if you want to go check those out. But like Josh had mentioned, we do this show every single week, the Artcasters, but it rotates between our 3 channels. So today this week it's on Josh's channel. Next week it'll be on Corey's channel. The week after that it'll be on mine, and keep going like that. That can get a little confusing. Plus, you might want to know who the guest is going to be or what the topic's going to be. And YouTube doesn't always notify you, especially if you turn off your notifications like Corey. So what you want to do is just join our mailing list. And we don't spam you or anything, and we're not tracking you. All we do is send out a little alert about 30 minutes before we go live to let you know where we're going to be, who the guest is, all that stuff. So you can click on, you'll get notified by that, and you'll know. So you'll be in the know. So yeah, that's you'll just click on the link in the description for that.
I love it. So with that all being said, we will now watch Mr. Jim Lujan's amazing trailer.
Thank you.
My name is Chino Diamond. I'm a private eye. My father used to say there are 2 types of people in the world: greedy and stupid. Well, there's a third: greedy and stupid. And dangerous.
Shut up.
It's a missing piece of music I think might be right up your alley. What do you know about the full fungus?
Well, let me stop you right there. It's a myth. Doesn't exist. If it did, somebody would have found it by now.
You think you're the first private eye to come looking for the full fungus tapes?
Wilt's been missing for almost a month now. It's not like him.
All right, enough games. You want the truth? Here we go.
Larry Carlisle, you know, the game show host? He's hired me to find his missing son-in-law.
Larry Carlisle? That guy's a douche.
Say, would you look at that?
Every answer leads to a new question. Every question leads to a lie. My name is Chino Diamond. I'm a private eye.
Oh, we're doing that? We're doing that now? That's what we're doing?